Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Royce Phillips Jr. and today we're going to talk about how I spent the last year studying out of this book right here, the Sigurd Rascher book, Top Tones for the Saxophone, building up to that 4-octave range, really also known as the altissimo range. And I wanted to share this video on some lessons that I learned, some things that I'm continuing to learn, and maybe some tips for you to maybe how you can work out of this book, but also how you can improve your own skill of building up the voicings, the overtones, getting up to the altissimo register, but also what I think is also not really said as much as possible about the importance of voicings is developing good tone and timbre and understanding how your voicing can affect the sound of the saxophone. So before we get into the video, I just have to do the obligatory please like and subscribe, or at least subscribe if you want to get more saxophone content, more things about music, musicianship, and different things like that, because I'm going to be sharing some of the things that I'm learning and what my takeaways are, and hopefully you connect with some of the things that I'm learning and we can collaborate and you can teach me some things, because, man, y'all are leaving some great comments down there on some things that I've never checked out before, I haven't heard of, or didn't even know about. Like, even though I'm posting videos on this channel, I still don't know everything. There's still a lot for me to learn. There's so much in the music world, and so I'm not the arbiter of truth. This is just what I'm learning. And so back to the video. So obligatory, hit that subscribe button. And also, by the way, I also have a newsletter that some of y'all have been joining, and I share a newsletter once a week, just a little tip. I share my latest YouTube video that comes out and an album to check out, so that hopefully you like some of the music that I share. So second obligatory thing is, why don't you check out my newsletter? And so, but on to the video. And I got this book about a year ago, and I already knew some things from voicings because I actually worked out of Don Cinta's book Voicing, which I actually made a video about that right here, and you should check that out because I think that book is way better of a book for a beginner on voicings than this book right here. And I'm going to dig a little deeper as to why I don't think this book is a great beginner's book, but it's kind of a 50-50 thing. There's, I think, chunks of it that beginners can definitely get great use out of, but then once it gets to a certain portion of the book is a little tricky. So I'm going to show some clips throughout of me playing the overtones, how I sounded over time, how I started a year ago, where I'm at now, and where I'm still trying to progress.
Come on.
And so the first thing that I learned from just doing this consistently, just working on this for a year, is that the first lesson is consistency and the importance of consistently working on something every single day. It seems like very, 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 very minimal growth, but I guarantee you, if you stick to it every single day, and even in this book, he even says you don't need to be spending like hours. It's 10 minutes a day. It's a daily practice. It's kind of like doing your warm-ups, doing your stretches if you're working out or anything like that. It's something that you come back to every day because it's something that you can continually build upon. And so consistency is the #1 thing that you got to keep working on. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in one practice session. It might not even happen in one thing. He constantly talks about in this book how it takes years. You know, he right here, it says, a number of the students in Europe have been very successful with these high tones, but mastery of them requires some years, even for an apt pupil. So be patient. Be patient and continually work on it. It is a really frustrating thing because you'll be, trying to do the overtones, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna get that B, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go up higher, and then which is the D or the concert F on D on alto. What's D on both alto and tenor? What am I talking about? But the D, and then all right, and then you try to go higher, and then you go, and then you have this ugly just growl sound. That is the part of the process. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like this book for beginners, because he doesn't really show you a way on how to build up each layer up and up and up. And that's why I do recommend the Don Cinto voicing book. But unfortunately, it is out of print right now. So that is a tough thing right there, because I do think it's a great beginner one. Someone recommended a different voicing book or a different altissimo book that I need to check out that's from like the 80s. So that'll be a video on that in the future. But consistency, consistency, consistency. And the second lesson is kind of along the line with the consistency, is building up slow. This is something that he talks a lot about in this book. I mean, before making this video, I actually revisited the notes that he took here. And you can see I have highlights here just of what he said, because you can kind of just go straight to the exercises and then forget the points that he's trying to make. But let me try to find the section here where he actually talks about the importance of just going slow. Because I mean, here he talks about being able to hear the tone in your ears. And let's see. So yeah, here we go. He talks about 5 or 10 minutes every day, probably one line a day. It's one of those things that take it slow. I know you want, me included, want to rush and I want to get through this, but these exercises aren't about rushing through. This is about mastery of something simple and building up on that, building up and getting focus on that sound, getting focus on that tone, your embouchure, your airstream, all of these things included. And so with those 2 tips out of the way, let me give you some technique tips to think about. The first is making sure that you have your embouchure be appropriate to allow you to be able to perform. So this is something he talks about in the beginning of the book, of doing these exercises so that you achieve uniformity of character. And this is where I think is really great for beginners, is this portion of sustained tones. How do you sustain a tone? How do you build the dynamics on the tone? How do you make sure that embouchure is making sure it's in tune? It is with good tone, with a round embouchure. So when you have your embouchure, and if you're new to the saxophone, you don't want your embouchure to just kind of be all over the place. And it depends on who you're influenced by, what your sound you're going for. Classical, jazz, they're different embouchures, and so you want to make sure. But the thing that is true is, don't bite on the reed. Don't bite on that reed. Don't clamp down. Corners in and get a nice round sound and push air through that horn. Man, that's a little buzzy. Let's try that again. So, making sure that is rounded. So that embouchure is really, really important. So one thing you'll notice is that if you're taking too much embouchure, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do the overtones. So let me give an example of that. And so you hear how barky it sounds, how very, very rough. So you want to make sure you're not taking too much embouchure, which is this, or too little embouchure. So you want to find this happy medium on the mouthpiece, which it's kind of, for me, right at the point where the reed and the mouthpiece make contact under the mouthpiece. And so making sure that embouchure is right. That's one thing he talks about, is getting your embouchure right. The second thing is your airstream. Making sure that air is nice and strong forward and through the horn. And the reason why I like these exercises at the beginning, especially if you're a beginner, is that it really forces you to think about your airstream. It really forces you to think about your embouchure. And it is no worry of building up those voicings to do the overtones. So here he has these octaves and fifths, so that you're trying to make sure that you have even tone, even dynamic, and that one note doesn't pop over the other. Right? Keeping that tone even, and if your airstream is right, you want to make you won't hear any wobbliness, you won't hear any gaps, you won't hear how it changes between the ranges. So airstream, keep that air good, because then also when you're going down on the bottom of the horn and you're playing that low B flat and you're changing your voicing and the overtones, your airstream and how it flows from your throat over your tongue into the mouthpiece is going to feel different. So air, keeping that airstream really strong. Third, one of the things he talks a lot about in this is he has a whole section here on tone imagination. And this is something that I've talked about with like transcribing or different things like that, is that you want to hear the pitch in your ear before you play the note, because you are voicing. It's not like you're using your fingers. So he talks about here, a musical activity is the outcome of a balance between vivid, colorful, and exact tone imagination and skillful tone production. Without a precise concept of the music to be reproduced, we are unable to render it in a convincing manner. Incomplete command of tone production and control makes it impossible to project the experience of our inner ear fully. Therefore, the student must develop his inner ear as much as he practices his instrument or her instrument. And so the reason why also he has these exercises where you're playing these octaves, and this exercise with the tone, the fourths and the fifths, is because you're not going to be using your fingers to change these pitches. And so you want to hear the pitch before you go up. So you have that low B flat, and then you want to hear that octave up. Boom. Oopsie, I went to the fifth. There it is. So you go bum, bum, and then you want to hear that fifth, which I played earlier. Bum, no, bum, bum, yeah. and then the octave. And then you hear the next note. You can hear it in your ear, and then. So you got to be able to hear that pitch so you know where you're targeting. Like, where's your ear leading you towards so that you can hit those notes. So tone imagination, hearing the note before you play it. And then also what's great about trying to hit those notes is doing pitch matching exercises. So like if you're trying to do the fifth, you have the F, and then the octave. And so you can do that to match and understand the pitch. So that is something else to think about in building up the technique to do. And then one of the other things that he doesn't actually talk about is, I think, is you actually have to be relaxed when you're doing these exercises. It is customary, or you feel like you need to tense up because you're doing these things, but you really, your throat has to be somewhat relaxed and open, and you will feel how it feels in the back. And so I would just experiment with playing that low B flat and then just moving your tongue any and all directions and your throat any and all directions just to see how it feels like when you're messing with that sound. So it's not a pretty sound, but it gets you to know what it feels like to move that part in the back of your throat so that once you start developing this technique of you know what it feels like. And so you want to be relaxed. Those higher notes, you're not biting down. You want to be able to play them as like you're still playing a B. Right? It's still relaxed. And so it is something that you want to build up slowly and stay relaxed as possible. The next thing is limit the time and notice when you are starting to get tired. One thing that is customary for some people is that you want to push through. You want to get it. You want to get it through. You gotta. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna beat this so it gets there. Not with this. You can injure yourself and you can hurt yourself. So if you're trying to play those higher notes, and you're getting this fall, and so you're getting that, and the note's not staying, and it's like you're tired. Call it a day. If you've already been doing it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, more than enough. 20 minutes max. Like, you don't really need to do, this is not something you keep going over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's 5, 15 minutes every single day is more than enough. And this is why the consistency lesson matters so much. Consistency matters more than anything else because, like, you can't practice this for hours in a day. You know, you're very much so limited. So notice when you are getting tired, and notice when you are, if you are feeling any sort of pain, to stop, because it shouldn't be painful and you shouldn't push past being tired. So be patient and work on it every day and don't push past pain points. Now, I'm going to talk about why I don't think this is great for beginners. The first parts of the book, pages 1 through 12, I believe, I think those are great exercises for beginners. The long tones of and working on your dynamics, great. Anyone can work on that. These, working on the characteristics and moving up the horn and down to the bottom of the horn, great. And then you have, these forts and then fifths, and then you have the octaves. The reason why I don't feel like this is a great beginner overtone book is immediately he has you just right away doing these overtone exercises, going from the root note to the octave to the fifth. But you have no way of knowing of how to change that embouchure. Yes, not embouchure, but the voicing. Yes, you have the ability of your embouchure and your airstream, and your tone quality is good. But just because you have those three things, or the things that he talks about in those previous first 10, 12 pages, doesn't mean you're actually going to be able to do voicings. Like, that is quite, I think, the limit of this book, and that's why I know I've harped on this before, I brought it up, not harped, but I know I've brought it up before, but the voicing book by Don Cinta, that's what I like about his, is that he starts developing of understanding what it means to start doing voicings. How does it feel to do voicings? And so he starts you real simple of play an octave and then play your octave F and then voice downward while still holding on to the octave key. Right? Or you push, and so then you feel how it feels to voice down. And then you could also not push the octave key and then feel what it's like to get that octave up. So like play your A. Right? So that you can start understanding, oh, that's what it feels like to voice down. That's what it feels like to voice an octave up. And then he slowly has you build up each mode, right? So then you start with the first mode. And then you get comfortable with the first mode. So you have the first mode, which is just, you have the octave down, the first root note, and then you do the octave up. And then you slowly build up that skill of playing that mode, and you do it chromatically up the horn, and then you see where your limit is. So the first mode, then you understand, that's what it feels like to do that. And then you slowly build up the skill of doing the octaves of that. But he just jumps right in, and you're doing all this. And I feel like that's not great for a beginner, and it can be quite frustrating. So if you are somewhat of an intermediate level advanced player, and you already have some basic understanding of voicing and how it feels like, and you're able to at least maybe do like the first 2 to 3 modes, then this book is great. And then you can, because this is like really an advanced book of building on top of what you have, and how do you build even more control of the voicings. And so this book, great book. I've been working on it for a year now, and I definitely have noticed that my ability to play the altissimo register, because this is one of the things, you're building up to build the skill of the altissimo register, but it's not just to be able to play it, you also want to play it well so that it sings well, right? You want to... Right? You want to be able to play it with some sort of control and not just play it and be like, oh man, I got it. And you want to be able to... You want to have some control. So that's what's great about these exercises, that it continually helps you build up that ability to have that control. It also helps you develop your tone. It helps you develop your sound. So hopefully you found some use from this video and gotten some sort of tips, some things to think about to help you work on this exercises. This is a solid book. But like I said, it's not great for, as you can see, look, the pages are falling out because I've used it so much. But it's a great book, but it's one that takes time. as Sigurd Rascher says, it takes time to develop. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on the techniques. I'm still trying to build up and seeing how I can continually improve these exercises, make them sound cleaner, make them sound more consistent, make them sound better in tune. I mean, it is a constant practice. But if you would like me to create a video on the first mode or the basics of voicing, since Don Cinta's book is out of print, I could make something if you'd like me to. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something you're interested in, on just like an introductory point on how like you can start thinking about voicings. But this is my review. I've been practicing it, like I said, for the last year, and it is still a classic for a reason. It is a book that is a must-have in the saxophone repertoire, but it's definitely for the advanced player. And so if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. It is something that I enjoy doing, is making these videos, and I hope you get some use out of it. Like I said before, I am not the arbiter of truth on the saxophone. I'm just sharing some of the ways that I think about it, and I love to learn from y'all, as well as y'all share some really helpful tips in the comments as well. So please leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't enjoy the video, you know, maybe there's something else I could figure out how to make. But also, if you have any other books that are recommended, I have Top Tones of Voicings. I told you there's another book that someone recommended. And then check out my newsletter. Follow me on my newsletter. I send out one little email per week, so that you can see what I'm up to, share some of the things that I'm learning, and also little tips for you. These are also tips that help me out. And if you want to see the voicing video that I talked about so much in this one, check out that video right here. It's Don Cinta's Voicings book, which I feel like is the best voicing book for beginners. We'll see you next time. Bye.